I was not great at exercising for years and years. And I used to tell people, and it sounds so ridiculous now to say it, but I used to tell people I don't exercise because I don't have energy. It's like, duh, that's why we exercise. So,
Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of Your Best Day Yet. At Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer here at the Center for Victory. With me today, all the way from Toronto, Canada, is Shannon Talbot. Welcome, Shannon. Great to have you on the show.
hey, thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, I'm going to let you have kind of an impressive resume here. And I would like for you to blow your own horn. You probably don't like to do that, I'm guessing, after talking with you a little bit. But can you tell us about all these things that you've been involved with and what you do?
Sure, love to. You're right. It's hard, but with International Women's Day around, nearby, it's yeah, important. Uh, so I grew up in the corporate world here in Toronto. I worked in banking for 15 years. I worked in advertising for 2 years. I went and did my MBA during all of that. I speak Spanish as well as part of my undergrad. So got to do some really cool stuff early on in my career in the banking industry and flying all over Latin America, which was fun. Uh, but I didn't grow up thinking, oh, I'm going to work in banking. Yeah, that's going to be my dream career. So it took me a while and a few false starts, but I finally got the courage to follow my passions. And it was two, I like to say, secret, silly dreams I had in high school, which were to be a speaker and a writer, which at the time I told myself were not real careers that you couldn't make money from. And that no, I should just be, the traditional person and go to business school. But a few years ago, and we might get into it in a bit after a kind of sad question that my 5-year-old asked me, I decided enough was enough. And I started my own business, Shannon Talbot Coaching and Consulting. And in that business, I do speaking engagements. I go into companies and talk to them about how they can live healthier, happier, and more fulfilling lives. I do coaching of individuals and small groups. And then most recently, I wrote my first book, Breaking Free, Stop Holding Back, Start Being You, which is really exciting. And that dream actually goes back to when I was 10 years old in grade 5. I'd always wanted to write a book.
Wow. Okay. And I want to talk about that. Okay. Because a lot of our listeners and watchers, man, these are the things that they tune in for, like what's going to hold us back. So,
Yeah.
what inspired you to, you went from banking to advertising, being an entrepreneur? You hinted at it a little bit. So, can you tell
Mhm.
us what inspired that journey of just moving along?
Yeah, and I have to take you back to 2008 because
Okay.
that's when things kind of started. So 2008 was a big year for me. It was the year I got married, still in an awesome marriage, going strong. And it was also the year I took a leave of absence from work to go do my MBA. And which meant that for my first year of marriage, I was reliant upon my husband's income, which I had been self sufficient. I'd been making money since I was 10 years old, doing odd jobs. Like I was always earning money as a kid. And when I got older, all through school and everything. So it was really weird to then all of a sudden be like, oh my gosh, I have to ask for permission or, I have to, borrow money from my husband, even though I know it's all one. And that was the year I started to get new titles. So, wife was my first title. Shortly after that, I became a people manager for the first time. So that was a new title. And then a few years down the road, I became a mom. And with each title, I put new expectations and pressure on myself. No one was telling me I had to act a certain way or do something. It was all self-inflicted. But I put all this pressure and everything on myself. But at the same time, although I had great mentors and leaders in my life and bosses, I didn't have any role models that were sitting there saying, it's really hard to balance all of these things. It's hard to balance ambition with motherhood and work and being a wife and all this. And I never had learned how to manage my stress or anxiety
Mm.
really either. So that was kind of when I started to lose a bit of myself and hold myself a bit back. And then, fast forward, we couldn't have kids on our own. We ended up adopting our two sons, which was amazing and incredible. And I wouldn't change it any other way. Um, but it was as the kids got older and then, the stress kept mounting and everything. And 3 years ago, I was pushing my then 5-year-old on a swing, a cold January day in Toronto during COVID. And I had them out at lunch hour to get some of their energy out. And he said, Mommy, can I give you a goal this year?
Oh, wow. From a 5-year-old.
From a 5-year-old. So naturally, I got excited because I'm thinking, yeah, give me a goal. I love goals. I was doing my coaching certifications. So excited. I said, yeah, bud, what's your goal for me? And he said, Mommy, can you be less angry this year? Because you are angry all the time.
Where that hit.
Oh, yeah. And I would have expected that goal for my older son, but I really thought my 5-year-old was going to say, you know what, just do 100 push-ups or something. Like that
Yeah.
was the goal I was thinking he was going to give me. So the goal he gave me really like was a dagger, dagger to the chest, but it was what I needed to hear because that was my wake-up call to realize, okay, I've been going through the motions. I've been doing what I thought I should be doing for all these years, and it was time to finally follow my passion and to also be that voice for other people who are holding themselves back or feel stuck in their lives or just, they're okay, but they could be doing better. And so that was, what led me into starting my business, but then also really was behind writing this book because it's the book I wish I had had,
Yeah.
while navigating work and life.
Yeah. That's amazing. Like, if, or have a little similarities there with things. So, well, I'm going to get into it. I can't wait any longer. So let's talk about this because I love the title, even just breaking free, stop holding back, start being you. Um, so let's go back. Like, what happened? So your 5-year-old, sets that goal for you. What did you do first, second, third? I mean, explain your path like to people because I think there are probably some moms and dads out there that need to hear it. I'm sure there's some working professionals out there that
Yeah.
are parents too that just, I just way back when, for myself, I just but then before I met my wife, I just wanted not to be angry myself. I just didn't know like you don't know how to do it because
Mhm.
you get wrapped up in things. So I'm curious if you could share that with our audience because I think they
Mhm.
would benefit from that. Like,
Sure.
one,
Yeah.
how
So
did
I
you get over your 5-year-old saying that to you? Like, it probably took a couple days and then right, but anyhow, yeah. Can you walk us
And
through that
the
process?
worst part is even, and if anyone reads the book,
Yeah.
you'll see I had, what was it? I think 2 or 3 years prior to that, I had my oldest, who was 5 at the time. Something happens when my kids are 5. Um, my oldest, who was 5 at the time, spent 31 days in hospital,
Oh,
and just for his appendix, he's totally okay.
yeah.
But it was this odd time. But during that time, I'd said, okay, this is it. Like I'm going to live a happier, healthier, more fulfilling life. So that's why I said it takes some false starts sometimes too, because it's a bit embarrassing. Like, I set out on that path back then, but then really what accelerated me and what really made me commit, I would say, to my path was this comment, this question from my 5-year-old. But if I had to break it down, I think it'd be 4 steps. So the first one was I had set a vision a few years prior of what my dream career looked like and dream life as well, like not just career, but life. But I'd given myself 10 years for that to come true because I didn't want to get bogged down in the how and, have just not pursue it because it seemed too daunting. So I think it was 2019. I said, I'm a successful entrepreneur who helps other people live happier, healthier, and more fulfilling lives. And so that was kind of my North Star that I put out there. And at the time, you know, in another world, I would have been a psychologist or I would have done social work or something, but my whole background was business. So I was like, I don't know how the heck I'm ever going to do it, but I'm not going to worry about the how. So I had the vision, and in that vision came greater work-life balance, came walking my kids to and from school. Those aspects too. It wasn't just money and, work. It was really having a better lifestyle. So that was setting the vision. And I think the second part that so many of us probably have that we have to do is drop the guilt.
Mm,
So on paper, I actually looked good. And, especially, living here and I have all the things I need. And from a materialistic standpoint, everything was really good. So then I had guilt for wanting to live this different life.
mm.
So for me, I had to drop the guilt. I had to say, you know what? It's okay. I can pursue, this more fulfilling life. That is okay. I'm going to do it. And then the third thing is to commit to it, right? Actually commit, believe in yourself. If you can't believe in it yourself, get somebody else to believe for you until your belief gets there. And then the fourth one, and it sounds so simple, and you have to take action, right? So
Yes.
many times we're just like, oh, okay, yeah, I have this big dream and I have belief in it, but then we don't always take the action we need towards it. So just taking those steps and making sure they're manageable and realistic so that they don't become too overwhelming, but just getting out there and doing it and tweaking it as you go and learning as you go.
And so are are some of these things in your book?
They are, yeah.
Okay.
So my book is I'd say it's part, I share a lot of my own stories. I share stories of other people. I say everyday people. I don't mean they're amazing people, but they're not, the uber celebrities that I also love learning from, but they're more relatable people that we can learn from. I share their stories. And then I also share very practical exercises, step by step of all the things you can do to break free. So that's all in there as well.
Yeah. Can I ask you some questions about some of these things that you said, like dropping
Yeah.
the guilt? I mean, that was like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. But I know so many people that struggle with that. Um, and not that I ever have. But I mean, it's such a great tip. Like, how do you do that though? Like, how did you do it, and how do you help people do that?
I think you have to find something that's going to be motivating enough for you to do it. And if it can't be your own needs, if that feels too selfish, because
Mm,
that's the hard part, right? Especially people who have the guilt, then have a really hard time focusing or prioritizing themselves and especially their dreams, which feels, you know, too, I don't know, luxurious sometimes or not practical to chase our dreams. So for that, I flip it and I do this with my coaching clients too. And it's like, well, who else would benefit in your life?
mm-hmm.
Or in my case, like I didn't want to be an angry person anymore. So by me finally chasing my dreams, even though it's self-serving, it's going to help my family. It's going to help my son. So if I can drop the guilt about wanting more, I'm going to be a better mom, wife, friend, leader, whatever that is, whoever is in your life that's important. Looking at how will it benefit them and do it that way.
Yeah, and would it be safe to say, like, when you do that, I know what's helped for me, and is just to concentrate not so much on the guilt, but my why.
Yes.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
and just focused
And
in on that and remember that.
yeah. And I wrote down, I still do. I write down my why
Mhm.
every day, Monday to Friday. Weekends, sometimes, but at least Monday to Friday, I write it down every day.
And I always tell people, and maybe you can validate this for me too. Um, that why is what gets you going when you have a hard day. When you have a
Yeah,
really crappy day, I'm looking at that why and going, okay, remember why you're doing this.
exactly. Yeah. And for me too, because especially since starting entrepreneurship, like it's a roller coaster, right? And things feel way more personal. And
Yeah.
I didn't expect, a lot of the both the highs and lows that I experience now.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and what it gets me through the tough days is writing, like writing out my why or revisiting it, getting out of my head and everything that's going on. And just writing and yeah, as you said, revisiting my why is really what gets me through.
Yeah, I think brought up another good point when you said that, because I found this with other great coaches as well. We when you said it about getting a little bit more personal, it's like, we put all this effort into people, the good ones, right?
Right.
We put all this effort into people, and it's tough sometimes when they don't progress, when they don't stay after it, when they quit and give up, or even when they're going through things. I mean, I've got a couple that right now that the folks that I work with, and they're going through some hard physical times, and it's
Mhm.
it's trying on me because I think about it constantly, because I know their lives, and like I'm not sure necessarily where I was going with that, but just for as a question, like you
Yeah.
dealing with that and coming back to your why. That's where I was going with it.
Yeah.
But coming back to that why, and I have to remind myself on those days, okay, I signed up for this. It's not always going to be like that, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so the commit, you said commit. I like the word. Um, what do you have to commit to?
So, I've been using this example, and it's a simple one, but I've been using it lately. I did a couple talks last week for a couple organizations, and I've been using this. So, and it's funny because I asked one of the organizations, I asked them, I said, what is the first step in a house renovation? So whether it's bathroom, whole house, kitchen, doesn't matter. And it was funny, the one group went to demolition. And I was like, no, it's a vision, right? So a house reno or whatever starts with a vision, an idea, a goal. And then comes the demolition, having to potentially move out or eat off paper plates or eat crappy food, or, if it's your kitchen, dust, things costing more time, things taking more time, all that, right? Renovations are messy. They usually don't go exactly as according to plan and all of that. Do you walk away in the middle of your house renovation? Like, probably not, right? You're going to finish it. You're going to see it through.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to commit. And that to me is how we have to think of any other type of transformation or habit change is it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to be really messy. It's not going to feel good. And likely might feel worse before it feels better. But if you think of it as a house renovation, like commit to it and you will get through and see to the other side. So it's, committing to the vision, committing to doing the hard work, and just committing to hope, I think is another really big one that can get us through.
And then the last one I absolutely believe in 100% that you just gave us was take action. Like, um, you can hear it around our household. Like, can't figure it out, just do something,
Yeah.
right? And I think people get stuck there. They just don't. One, they don't commit to it, and then they don't do anything about it, right?
Yep.
And what can you take action on? Like, what would you tell people? Like, you mean by that? I mean, I think
Yep.
I know what that means, but like
Yeah.
again, for people that are listening to that, what do you think they need to take action on? What would you tell them to take action on?
So I'd first say you have to uncover what are all the obstacles between where you're at now and, your vision. And maybe not all of them, the first bit, right? We can't tackle everything. But what are the things standing in the way, or what are the things holding you back right now? And I talk about, we all have fears. We are masters of excuses. We'll say things like, I don't have time. I don't know how. And we'll believe it. I was guilty of that for years. Oh my gosh. I was not great at exercising for years and years. And I used to tell people, and it sounds so ridiculous now to say it, but I used to tell people I don't exercise because I don't have energy. It's like, duh, that's why we exercise. So, um, so we're really great at coming up with all the reasons why something can't happen,
Mm-hmm.
the beliefs, the stories we tell ourselves. So, you might tell yourself, oh, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not good enough, or, uh, you know, I'll, I'll get fired if I speak up at work, or, we tell ourselves all these stories that hold us back. So the first step is you have to actually admit and have awareness of what those things are, and then start to the actions um, that you should take would be like against those obstacles, right? So whether it's telling yourself new stories or doing a new habit, even if it sucks or feels uncomfortable. But it's taking action towards, you know, your goals, but in small, manageable chunks. Otherwise, you'll just set yourself up for failure.
Yeah. And I think that's where I totally agree with that. I think that's where people really get stuck is they just take the next just little logical step there.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to pivot a little bit because you have all this background in corporate America, and
Yep.
I'm going to get your thoughts on it because a lot of our clients are um, in corporations and companies, and the big topic for us that we deal with every single day, and we get asked every single day, is why do so many people feel disengaged at work? So, what's
Mhm.
your answer to that? Because you see it as well.
Yeah. I think fear, just everything that's been going on, right? The economy, job losses, things like that. I think, and this is just my personal opinion, um, but I think we're letting fear just get too involved in our lives. I think, you know, we're fearful of losing jobs or of not getting a promotion or of not getting the bonus, that, or even just fear of getting in trouble, looking stupid. I think we're letting that get in the way of us either speaking up more or asking, to lead a project that maybe we want to lead, but we're too nervous to ask for, or of being more authentic leaders and showing up more authentically because we're afraid of how we'll be perceived or just any repercussions that can happen. And so I think as a result, people are just staying there, they're staying stuck, they're just focusing on the paycheck. And what I do hear a lot, unfortunately, from many of my clients is, oh, well, when I retire, I'll do it.
Oh,
Like, oh, I'll get a hobby when I retire. Or I'll hear, like, oh, once my kids are older, then I'll do it. Then I can pursue that, career I really want to go after or that promotion. And so I think it's just people are letting other priorities get in the way of their fulfillment and happiness.
okay. So now I'm going to flip the script. I'm going to go parent now. All
Yeah.
right, because I love being a dad. All right, my kiddos are out now, but yeah, still love them. There's a lot of things we did that were different with them, and again, I think you'll validate this for people. Um, so your kids, that was 3 years. So the youngest would be 8 right now, 8 and
That's right.
9,
Yeah.
8,
8 and 10, my
8
two
and
boys.
10.
Yeah.
Okay, so your two boys, um, knowing what you know now, knowing what you've experienced, knowing what you've told us, what kind of truth are you speaking into your two little boys right now that they need to hear with everything else going on in the world?
I think authentic, it's a big one.
Yeah, I know. I'm
It's a
sorry. I didn't
lot.
mean it.
No,
Yeah.
no. There's a lot of ways
Yeah.
to go with it. But for me, the biggest thing is authenticity is huge for me. It's being, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to, be authentic, show up as yourself. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay, a lot of these things that, again, I know I don't know like you or your
Yeah.
upbringing much or anything, but, so many people grew up with all of these beliefs of, how we should act in society and what we should do and things like that. And I really want it to just kind of to things to turn around. And another thing, my oldest is actually he has autism, he has ADHD, and he has anxiety. And he is such an amazing advocate for himself.
Oh,
And
that's
he will
awesome.
like openly tell people, like, well, that's I have anxiety. So this, you know what, if we do that, that's gonna increase my anxiety. Or, my autism causes me to do this. And I love it. And I hope that doesn't go away as he gets older and people start to say things. But I think the number one thing I want for them to do is be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, be kind. I think kindness is still
Oh,
really underrated. I want them to be kind. And number three, I want them to follow their passions.
very good. Thank you for that concise answer from such a wild left field question. was like, after
I
I
love
asked
it.
that,
Yeah, I've
I'm
never
like,
had that question before.
ooh, that was kind of loaded. Uh, but yeah, I knew you could handle it. So people can reach you at shannontalbot.com. That's your website. So you can
Yep.
go and get all good information. You can always we can lead you to her as well from our site. Last question for you, Shannon, as
Right.
we end today. And love to have you back. I'd love
Sure.
to maybe down the road in a few months, love to have you back and unpack that book a little bit, because I think it um, has probably a lot of good stuff in it that people need to hear. What would you tell, since our podcast is called Your Best Day Yet? What advice would you give people out there that are listening and watching for them to have their best day?
They find one thing every day that brings you joy, right? We can't all, chasing dreams are important and great, but those are big things, right? And that's, going to give you highs and lows. But if you can find one thing every day, one small thing where you can find joy, where you can bring yourself pleasure, I think that's just what I would recommend.
Very good. I appreciate it. Thanks for being our guest. I really appreciate the dialogue here today, and really appreciate what you're doing. I know it's helping people, and keep up the great work.
Thanks,
But
Eric. It was
I'd
awesome to
love
be
to
here,
have
and
you
I'd love to
back.
come back.
Absolutely. So that's all for today, folks. Really appreciate you watching and listening. If you want more information, you can go to our website at centerforvictory.com. And just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make sure you make this day your best day yet. We'll see you soon.